So, what's an S-trap and why are they prohibited in most states or countries? To understand this, we first need to understand what a trap's role is in a plumbing system. And as always, if you learned something from this video, hit the like button to not get punished by the plumbing gods. So what is a trap? A trap, whether it's an S-trap or P-trap, is meant to keep the sewer gases and other dangerous fumes of the city's sewage system from coming into your house, while allowing waste material to pass through. Each home produces waste, and this waste contains gases known as methane and ammonia, which are both toxic to the human body. Not only are these gases toxic, but they're also flammable, which means that if they were allowed into your house, they could cause some major havoc. Some cities had their sewer covers blown off hundreds of feet into the air, as rodents would chew on electrical wires and ignite these flammable gases. So just imagine what it could do in your home. Every trap has a few different components. This is the sink or lavatory's tailpiece. This is the actual trap, which traps the sewer gases. And this is the trap arm that connects to the drain and vent. So now that we know what is what these traps serve, and how they actually work, what's the difference between an S-trap and a P-trap? Simply said, a P-trap is a vented S-trap. Back in ancient civilization, a Greek philosopher called Pythagoras invented a special glass of wine called the greedy glass that would empty itself on the person drinking when greed would take over. The only reason why this trick glass would work is because there was no vent. If there was a small opening here, the pressure would equalize and the siphon wouldn't occur. So as we could see, the greedy cup and the S-trap you find under your sink are very similar, and they both act in the same way. When the water goes down the vertical pipe, the velocity of it sucks just enough water out of the trap for the sewer gases to seep through and come into the house. So how do you resolve this problem? Well, you vent it. A P-trap is a bit different, simply for the fact that the horizontal trap arm doesn't completely fill up with water, and it also has a dedicated vent to help regulate any positive or negative pressure. If you'd be able to see behind your walls, you'd have a vent pipe like this that would eventually go out the roof to provide fresh air to the system. This vent, similar to the one I made before on the trick glass, is what equalizes the pressure in the system to prevent any siphoning. This siphoning could be coming from an improperly vented toilet nearby, for example, as toilets displace a lot of air in the pipes. If you had an S-trap, it would most probably siphon out the water and use the actual drain as a vent. Now, if you have S-traps on all of your fixtures in your home and you aren't having any problems, you don't really need to address these. But what if you always smell sewer gases? How do you go about fixing it? There's three possible ways: a typical P-trap vent, the AAV, and the loop or bow vent. So first off is the P-trap I mentioned before, and I already explained how it works. But the only thing is that during renovations, for example, these vents aren't always accessible, and breaking all the walls is not really an option. Which leads me to number 2. The AAV. The AAV, which is also known as Studer vent or Sure vent, is by far the easiest way of modifying an S-trap. The only problem with them is that, to be code, they need to be installed 6 inches above the flood level of the fixture for them to be considered a proper vent. And most people do not follow this rule, so they don't pass inspection, and some cities prohibit them because of this. They sell dedicated boxes like these to install them in so that you don't just have an AAV on your wall looking weird. Also, since it's a mechanical device, there's chances of it breaking in the open position, which would let sewer gases in. However, some municipalities do allow them, which is why it's important to inform yourself before planning anything. The third way is to make what we call a loop vent. A loop vent is basically a normal vent, but rerouted to fit the needs. This method does require more plumbing, but at least this way, there's no mechanical devices that could fail, which makes it a much safer option for venting. The only con is that you need to have access to a nearby vent pipe to connect to, which once again may require some demolition. Getting the proper permits for this is mandatory, and what I'm saying is for informing purposes only and could vary from state to state. And that pretty much covers it for S-traps. If you guys have any questions about this topic, just drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer you. Like, share, and subscribe if you learned something, and until the next one, thanks for watching.